A shocking verdict for Amanda Knox.
Amanda is very upset. We're very surprised of the outcome of the decision.
Now reconvicted of slander for accusing an innocent man in her roommate's murder in Italy in 2007. Knox, who was 20 years old at the time, was arrested along with her then boyfriend for the death of Meredith Kercher.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
All right, here we go. Pop the champagne. It's time for a little celebration. Italy's highest court has affirmed Amanda Knox's slander conviction. She is now a convicted liar, and it is permanent. No takes backs unless she appeals it in some crazy way, which you never know with America's luckiest, unluckiest felon, Amanda Knox. She just might do that. But for now, it's permanent. Amanda Knox is a convicted liar. So, very good news from Italy this week. And of course, Amanda Knox has taken to the Atlantic, where she's written an essay about her terrible, horrible, no good, very bad interrogation, the same kind of interrogation Raffaele Sollecito was put through, her roommates, Laura and Philomena, were put through. But strangely, Amanda Knox was the only one to falsely accuse her boss, Patrick Lumumba, of killing her roommate, Meredith Kercher. So why do I think Amanda Knox is guilty? It's not just her. And here's Meredith Kercher, beautiful Meredith, brilliant Meredith Kercher. For those of you who don't know. Why do I think she's guilty? Well, for one, there is the double DNA knife with Amanda Knox's knife on the handle or the hitch of the knife and Meredith's DNA on the blade. There is multiple mixed DNA that lights up under luminol, i.e. blood. Now, Amanda Knox's supporters will like to tell you that she rubbed root vegetables on her feet, and that's why her DNA was mixed with Meredith's DNA that lit up under luminol, meaning her blood mixed with Meredith's blood in multiple places in the villa that they shared, in the bathroom, the hallway, and the room of the staged break-in, which is a very important fact. They also noted that there was a lot of cleaning done. Someone who didn't live there wouldn't clean up the scene. There was no need to clean up the scene unless you were trying to point the police into a direction to people who didn't live there. That's why you would stage a break-in and do a cleanup. Amanda Knox had staged a break-in before with her girlfriends as a prank. Please excuse my voice. I'm still getting over being sick. Hope it's not too hard to listen to. I see Tuesday Money is in the... I'm just going to send you an invite Tuesday, and anybody else who wants to come in and talk about this. If you want to come in and talk about it. If not, okay. But I'll just put the link in the chat. Hold on one second. Will it let me do that? Hold on, let me do it on my phone. Maybe I'll take a break and do it on my phone. Because strangely, it's not letting me. Oh, here we go. Finally, technology. Thank you for your patience. So Amanda Knox also changed her story so many times, which is odd. The truth only there's only one truth. And it's also that she falsely accused her boss, Patrick Lumumba. And for those that don't know, he owned a bar called Le Chic, where Amanda Knox worked, and Meredith Kercher was going to take over her shifts. So there was an increasingly bad relationship between Amanda Knox and Meredith Kercher. They started off thinking, hey, we both speak English, we could be friends. And they realized very quickly that they were very different people and they did not get along. Meredith Kercher was going to take over Amanda Knox's shifts at Le Chic, which couldn't have made Amanda Knox happy. So here's Patrick Lumumba. And every court that has looked at the evidence, and why I don't think Rudy Goudet did it alone is it's wholly improbable. There's also a size 7 shoe print in Meredith's blood found in Meredith's room. Amanda Knox's lamp was found in Meredith's room. There is a whole lot of evidence against Amanda Knox, as Alan Dershowitz has said. Amanda Knox's only light source found facing under the bed with Meredith's lamp. What were they looking for under the bed? All signs of a cleanup. The place stunk of bleach. There was no DNA of Amanda Knox found anywhere in the kitchen. And also the washer dryer had been on. Amanda Knox was seen, although this was never testified to in court, seen waiting for a store to open. And the gentleman who owns the store believed that she went to the cleaning aisle to buy cleaning supplies. The murder weapon was found in the knife, double DNA knife was found in Raffaele Sollecito's apartment. Why would Rudy Goudet return the knife over to Raffaele Sollecito's apartment and put it in the drawer with the rest of the silverware? And it's the changing stories. It's also how she accused Patrick Lumumba. When Raffaele Sollecito pulled his alibi, Amanda Knox's boyfriend, Amanda Knox immediately had a memory of holding her ears, hearing Meredith scream, and there are also witnesses. She knew things about the crime that other people didn't know. She knew that Meredith was stabbed. She knew that Meredith screamed. There was witnesses in the village who heard Perugia, heard Meredith scream, a curdling scream, and then multiple people running. No court that has ever looked at this says that one person did it alone, but you wouldn't know that from America media, which is all giving love letter press to Amanda Knox. Boo-hoo, Amanda Knox. Poor Amanda Knox. And we'll get to her statement. So her boss, Patrick Lumumba, was a good stand-in, if anybody had seen him, for Rudy Goudet, the African, they're both African, who she did the crime with. He was, of course, he was not a wanderer, loner, vagrant, as Amanda Knox's groupies would like to make out, and PR team would like to make out. Of course, Amanda Knox's father got her a PR team before he got her a lawyer for $1 million. Gregory Marriott, they're out of business now. And her father said it was the smartest thing that they ever did, getting a PR team. But Rudy Goudet, who had lived in Perugia, he was not a vagrant wanderer, lived in Perugia his whole life, was well known. Here's Tuesday. You got to connect your devices. Tuesday. If you want to, I'd love to bring you in, but just connect your stuff. Maybe pull out and come back in when you've got your mic connected? You don't have to turn on your camera, just turn on your mic. So I'd love to add you in. Tuesday Money did one of the episodes that's my most listened to episode, which is called What Amanda Knox Won't Tell You, which I find fascinating. With all the episodes I've done on Amanda Knox, that is the one that is most listened to, most watched, still years after it is. Oh, here she is. Years after I made it, because I think that many people in my personal life, when they know I do a true crime podcast, the one thing they want to know is Amanda Knox. Everyone says she's guilty, but it says she's innocent, but I find her very weird. She rubs me the wrong way. I'm not so certain. So I think it's very curious that I think it's really the title of that episode, What Amanda Knox Won't Tell You, because many people feel that she's not telling the truth. Now she's a convicted liar. Welcome Tuesday. Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, no. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, we got a delay. We got a delay.
You want to pull out and try again? Okay. Let's see it. Do you want me to boot you
I can't hear the show. There we go. I hear you now.
Okay. So what do you think of this? Where were you when you heard this news, the Great Tuesday Money?
I've been sick all week. I didn't hear about this at all.
No, it is final.
No.
There's no going back. Let's look at Amanda Knox's own words, shall we?
Oh, yes.
It's final.
Please.
She is.
I can't wait.
It's no take backs, no give backs, no take backs. When you cover innocence fraud, there's so seldom good news. And people like Steve Drizzen, who was Brendan Dassey, if anybody's seen Making a Murder, one of Teresa Hallback's killers, lawyer, he's up in arms about it. And anybody who doesn't know much about Amanda Knox is up in arms about it on Twitter. But let's check out Amanda Knox's own words. She's been wrongly convicted twice. What are the chances of being wrongfully convicted twice, do you think? I would say slim to none, but...
Yeah, I would say pretty much slim to none. But it depends on who you're listening to, right?
Okay, Amanda Knox. I've been on trial half of my life. Half of her life she's been on trial. That is such a lie. She didn't even go to this trial. Nobody was there. They said there were a few reporters were there. And even the lawyers, even her lawyers and Patrick Lumumba's lawyers weren't even there when the verdict was read. So she didn't attend her other trial. She said, I won't go back to Italy for the murder of Meredith Kercher because she said it was she thought it was a sign of innocence that she wouldn't return to Italy. She has hardly been in court. So she's just such a liar. Yesterday, and now she's a legally convicted liar or slanderer. Yesterday, my 18-year-old legal drama finally came to an end when the Court of Cassation, I couldn't believe it Tuesday. I just I was asking people, are you sure that is this the highest court? You sure there's not some other court that this could go to? Because they moved it to Florence, which was really odd to me. And I got all confused. And I was like, are you sure this is over?
Oh.
Italy's highest court definitively convicted me of criminal slander. It's a thread because Amanda Knox can't sum it up. Even though she's verified, she could write a long post, but many people are familiar with my wrongful conviction. No, I'm not familiar with your wrongful conviction. I'm familiar with your rightful conviction for the Meredith Kercher murder. But this lesser charge arising from statements I signed during my interrogation She just signed these statements. It's not like that she said them. They just handed them to her and she signed them. As soon as Raph pulled her alibi, she was saying, oh, I have a vision. It's him. It's him. He came and he went on the basketball courts, which is where Rudy Gude played with the boys or young men who lived downstairs, played basketball. And I heard Meredith scream, and I was in the kitchen table. I put my hands over my ears, and she was shaking and being a real actress, hamming it up. And he sat, let me just say that Patrick Lumumba sat 2 weeks in jail. Not once did she retract. And he got himself out on his own ironclad alibi. She's never paid him the money she owes him. Now, with interest, it's over $100,000. She got $3 million for a book, never paid him any money. She's raised funds for her wedding. She's now has a Hulu documentary coming out in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
The charge was
this a long time ago.
I know, she could have just paid him. If she keeps saying, I feel so badly. The charge resulted, she says it's all the police's fault. The charge resulted from a lie invented by the police. The police are the liars, not me, who have, if you follow this case, she's caught in so many lies. The email that she wrote home is so different. Her statements change wildly and rapidly as it goes on. That I was present when my roommate, Meredith, you know what's funny? Is that the court that let her go, so this is Italy's highest court, the Court of Cassation, after much pressure by America, determined that she was there at the scene of the crime, washed Meredith's blood off her hands and her feet, and that it was a crime done by multiple people, and that the break-in was staged.
Yeah.
That was her exonerating decision, some exonerating decision. So if you learn nothing else from this episode, know that the same court, meaning Italy's highest court, determined by illegally throwing out all the DNA evidence that implicated Amanda Knox or Raph, but while letting her go, determined that she was there at the scene of the crime. So it's interesting that she mentions that she was there at the scene of the crime. Many people are familiar with, the statements I signed. The charge results from a lie invented by the police. It wouldn't be great if it were only one lie. That I was present when my roommate Meredith was paid and murdered at our apartment in Perugia in 2007.
No, it wasn't just that you were present. You plunged a knife into her neck.
That was what the prosecution's theory was. And Meredith had women's size fingerprints on her. There was a size 7 shoe in Meredith's blood found on the pillowcase. Strangely, the size that Amanda Knox wears. Those shoes were never found. Everything that subsequently went wrong in the investigation, i.e., I was convicted multiple times. I mean, it's a little different. You can't say multiple times, but it was affirmed. And prosecution that turned tunnel vision, junk science. Oh, she's got all the innocence fraud phrases here. Tunnel vision, ding, 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 ding. I need sound effects for the show.
It's like
tunnel
they have their own nomenclature here.
Exactly.
They use the same language. Yeah.
Tunnel vision investigation, junk science. That's exactly what the Innocence Project uses. Biased witnesses. Everyone was biased. Who people who didn't know her were somehow biased against her. Strangely, she's the only one who falsely accused someone else of doing the crime. And strangely, it's her DNA that's found all over the apartment, even with all the cleaning done. Flowed from that lie. Sorry, I'm going to try to get through this. Everything that subsequently went wrong in the investigation and prosecution, the tunnel vision, ding, 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 junk science, ding, 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 biased witnesses, bing, 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 flowed from that lie. Amanda Knox, the interrogation I was subjected to remains the most terrifying experience of my life. I call BS. More terrifying than that first crushing, guilting verdict, which the The woman who was the warden said she never cried, never needed sleep aid, and was like the happiest prisoner she ever knew, basically, essentially.
Mhm.
They called her the actress. And 26-year sentence, more terrifying than prison itself. I think she may be telling somewhat of the truth, that she didn't like the 26-year sentence. I was 20 years old and was questioned for more than 53 hours. Oh, here we got the 53 hours lie again.
You know,
It
it's
just
funny
gets
when
higher
I
every
started.
time.
Yeah, when I started looking at this case years back, it was 30 hours of interrogation. The 53 is new. I haven't heard this one.
So here's what happened, folks. We're going to go over it in some more detail in a second. But when she came to the police station tired, when Raph came to sort of hover over him and wait while he got interrogated, her boyfriend, and they all told her, go home, get some sleep. And they said, well, now that you're here, and she said, no, I want to stay. They said, well, now that you're here, maybe you could write down some ideas of maybe who it is. They didn't think it was Amanda Knox. They didn't have any, they were just questioning people who lived around the house. They didn't have any idea. Although as she acted strangely, doing cartwheels and splits and saying ta-da, she put on little shoe covers, walking them through the crime scene. And then when they showed the knife drawer, she started to shake her head and started to cry. They might have had a hint that she was acting a little strangely. And she also had conflicting stories and changed her stories. And they told her to go home. She says no. And then they decide to interview her. And that's when Raph pulled her alibi. And within 2 hours, she had falsely accused Patrick Lumumba.
Yep.
I was 20 years old and questioned for more than 53 hours over a 5-day period in a language I was only just learning to speak. She was a whiz at languages. Mm-hmm. If you look at her writing in Italian, she's pretty good. And she understood pretty well what they were saying and spoke Italian pretty well. She even testified in Italian. Didn't she? No.
Well, at the end, she made a statement in Italian. During the trial, she did have a
translator. That's right. Correction.
Yeah.
Okay. But she does speak languages. She also speaks German.
Yes.
She's a whiz at language. She's good at languages. A night of Meredith's murder, I had stayed with Raffaele Sollecito, a young man that I just started dating, but also with an interest in knives. Also had a criminal record. Amanda Knox had a criminal record. The only one who didn't have a criminal record was Rudy Goudet. But no matter how many times I said that, I had stayed with Raffaele Sollecito, a young man I just started dating. But no matter how many times I said that, the police refused to believe me. And they refused to believe you even more when Raffaele Sollecito said, no, it's a bunch of lies that Amanda Knox told me to say. Mm-hmm. And pulled his alibi. To this date, they still have no alibi for their time touring there. He says he was home and Amanda Knox went out. I was berated, threatened, lied to, and slapped, and eventually my sanity broke. I say it broke a long time ago. I began to believe the lies the police were telling me, and I agreed to sign statements. She's basically saying the police wrote these statements. How would they know?
That doesn't make any sense.
She's saying they knew by his text message that this is absurd. Placing myself and another innocent man in the house when the crime had occurred. I recanted only a few hours later, but it didn't matter. She recanted. No, she didn't. No,
she did not.
She said she was more certain than ever, but still unsure. She was just playing a game with the police. She wrote a note that she called her gift and handed it to the police the next day. And it's a crazy, it's like, I'm unsure, but I'm more sure than I was, but I'm still, these events seem more dreamlike, and I'm not sure, but I am sure. Just all this double talk. I was coerced into signing the statements. Give me a break. And then charged with criminal slander for doing so. The conviction branded me a malicious liar. Well, I think anybody who's followed this case knows the case. knew you were a malicious liar before this and cast suspicion over me. I mean, if the shoe fits, Amanda, and cast suspicion over me even after I was acquitted of murder and freed from prison, excuse me for my YouTube speak. And it allowed the Italian authorities to scapegoat me for leading the investigation astray instead of owning up to their failures. But she now has time to own up to her own failures. Why won't you pay Patrick Lumumba, Amanda Knox? Even when you're making $15K a speech, you're not giving him any money. $3 million for your book deal. Now I have to live with the wrongful conviction for the rest of my life. Oh, poor Amanda. She's a woman who's made millions off of her crime. Poor her. Boo-hoo. In the first few days of the police found what appeared to be a black hairs on Meredith body that they believed to belong to someone of African descent. A young man who lived in the flat below ours told the police that a black man known as the Baron had visited his apartment in the past with fingerprints and DNA not yet known. The Baron? I've never heard this before. This is all new to me.
Oh, I knew
yet
that
to return
one.
from the lab. You did? These were big leads. But the police, I've never heard the Baron part, but the police were also suspicious of me, strangely, with all my conflicting, changing stories and no alibi. Strangely, the police, how crazy, were suspicious of her. Giuliani Vanini, the prosecutor who led the investigation, was convinced that the perpetrator had not broken into her home. Maybe it was the woman's size 7 shoe on the pillowcase and Meredith's blood. Maybe it was the mixed DNA. Only
your
the
lamp in the room
DNA is reliable, right, guys?
Yeah, your lamp in the room.
Yeah, or only light source. Yeah. As it appears, a window was shattered. A rock was found out inside. On a hunch, Vanini decided that the break-in had been staged. On a hunch, that with major forensics behind him. It wasn't a hunch.
Well, there's so much wrong with
had
that
access
break-in.
to our flat. I'm sorry.
There's so much wrong with that break-in and why it was considered staged.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, the main thing is that the glass, when you throw a rock at glass, you're going to have glass going outside and inside, okay, because of physics and forces. There is no glass outside below the window, number one. Number two, the pattern of glass where it was on the ledge was not scattered about everywhere. It was actually only to the point where the shutters would close. So they knew that the rock was used from the inside to break the glass, and then they opened the shutters. That's the only thing that explained the pattern. The other problem is there were shards of glass. So there's no glass outside, none. You would have glass coming outside on the bottom there, right? You would have glass both inside and outside. And there was none outside. And then there were shards of glass in the window panes where it's not realistic to think somebody went through that window and didn't leave, like didn't cut themselves, didn't leave any evidence, anything. The whole idea that they pulled themselves up onto that window without the bars, because I know you've shown that video where the climber gets up there and he's grabbing the bars to pull himself
They had
up.
to have an expert climber recreated. It would be so hard to climb. I mean, I don't know if it would be impossible to climb. I used to say it was impossible. Now I'm going to say anything is possible, but they had to get an expert climber to recreate it with bars added on the window to help him climb. So
well, the problem
let's
is
just leave it at that. No one else could do it before the bars and an expert climber came in for the defense. He would have
had to have grabbed onto something to pull himself up, which means the ledge, you see.
Right.
And then, and if someone were to come up there, they would either just brush all the glass off, right? Or, you know, they wouldn't leave it in this particular pattern where the glass only goes up to where the shutters are closed. They would have to grab onto something. If you brushed off the glass, there'd be no glass there. If you grabbed onto something, you probably would have cut yourself. You probably would have, you know, left a trace of you. So yeah, there's so much wrong with that break-in, and the police knew automatically that it was staged, and they even said that the room had been ransacked prior.
Exactly. I mean, and you know, when Raffaele Sollecito called to call the police about the break-in, he said nothing's been stolen. How did he know nothing had been stolen?
He would not have known.
I was the lone foreigner. The others were Italians working in law offices. One had been out of town and the other had screamed and wept after seeing the grisly scene in Meredith's bedroom. Strangely, Amanda Knox didn't go. The whole town of Perugia went to the memorial for Meredith, and Raph and Amanda Knox went to eat pizza and also buy lingerie. And Amanda Knox was seen on camera holding up the lingerie and saying, "We're going to go home and have great sex." Seems like two psychopaths found each other, and it was on very quickly between her and Raph. So when people say, well, how did she do this crime with someone she just met? Well, that's my theory.
Yeah.
They found their soulmates.
Carla Homolka.
Right, exactly. Same thing. Very much so. And Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka, check that out. Same thing. I never saw inside the room, but she knew immediately that a foot was sticking out, having not out of a blanket. Amanda Knox, strangely.
She was outside when they broke down the door. So they didn't understand how she knew that Meredith was by her closet.
Thank you. Correction.
She said she was right by there, and she also said something about a foot. Well, that might have happened. They might have said her foot was revealed or whatever, but she was covered. But the main thing was that she knew she was stabbed, and she knew that she was by her wardrobe closet area.
Right. When Meredith's friend said, at the police station, I hope she didn't suffer so much.
Yeah.
Amanda Knox said, what do you think? She effing bled to death.
Yeah.
You know, and was doing splits and cartwheels. She says just stretches, all very odd behavior. But I think that's very minimal compared to the rest of the evidence, because Amanda Knox's groupies will say, well, you don't know how you would react. You might need to stretch in the police station one day.
Well, who else did stretches?
After your friend, quote unquote, is murdered.
Who else did stretches at the police station during their interrogation?
Jodi Arias.
Yeah, with her handstands and stuff. Yeah, she ended up being innocent too, huh?
And the police found marijuana plants in the apartment below ours. Something Meredith, this is all also, Meredith was dating Giacomo. Amanda Knox was crazy about Giacomo, but he only had eyes for Meredith, and Meredith took care of those pot plants and was worried about getting in trouble for taking care of pot plants when the men were away. When the police interrogate you, the first thing they do is isolate you. Isolation, really? Because they don't really. They should. What do you think? They should interview everyone in a group so all your memories can get contaminated. The first thing they do is isolate you. Isolation is not just about the room you're in, one with no windows and no clocks. I thought they had ticking clocks. It's about making you feel that the police themselves are your only support system. She was gaming them from the get-go. She was no innocent lamb. This is such a joke. But here's the more interesting part. It goes on and on and on and on. But that she can't travel and that it's affecting her travel. This is why she's so mad. And also her rep. And I'm sure it will make rational people think, why did she falsely accuse her boss of murder? That the murder that she was accused of. Rational people would conclude because she did it. She was a part of it. Yes, it will affect my ability. There's all these people who have been duped and groupies going, oh, poor Amanda in the comments. Yes, it will affect my ability to travel internationally, Amanda says. Australia just rejected my tourist visa application. And
Good.
excuse me for having a little Schadenfreude, but in my view, she got away with brutally taking, and Raph too, taking part in a murder of a brilliant young woman with her whole life ahead of her. She's done nothing but re-victimize the victim, Meredith Kercher's family, and profited off the crime. So excuse me for having a little Schadenfreude that this conviction was upheld and Australia just rejected her visa application. And it just never ends. She never does anything different.
This is all she has. This is her entire life is worked around what happened. And she just will not shut up about it. And it's the same with all these other people that we see, West Memphis 3, they do the same thing. This is their life. They want everyone to believe something. And I'm sorry, if you're innocent, it just seems to me you just want to go away.
Right. And she's talked about me on her. The one person who continually talks about her conviction, me, bothers the living heck out of her. It's not enough that she's bamboozled the whole world. Here she is on her Labyrinth podcast saying, do you know about the innocence fraud movement? I wish it were a movement. It's just like me and a few other people who talk about it. Otherwise, there's no movement going on. And she talked specifically about me, brought up my name.
Did she?
She did. Maybe I'll cue it up during a break and we can listen to it again.
Yeah, let's do for sure. I want to hear that.
I didn't think of it.
She used to go into comment sections on YouTube and comment. And we all knew it was her.
Oh, yeah, she did that until I called her out. She seems to have stopped doing that, but she's all over Reddit, bad-mouthing my name. And then she'll erase her account, and then she'll come back again, and then she'll erase her account. My friend got into an argument with her, or what someone she believed was her. And this is why she believed it was her, because the person kept saying, well, you don't know how it was done, because none of us really know the mechanics of how this happened.
Right.
What sprung it off. My theory is that it was a fight about money. That's what Rudy Gude says. That's a part of his story, I do believe. Right. Meredith's rent money was stolen, and Amanda Knox was going through thousands and thousands of dollars a week. Her supporters say she was buying truffles. More critical, reasonable people seem to think she was spending it on drugs. And this was fueled by some kind of stimulant drugs and maybe something else. But
that's what I think.
I just got off, and so we don't know the mechanics. So this person on Reddit was saying, how do you think it was done? What do you think? Who do you think did what? Basically, like, who do you think this person wanted to hear in detail how Meredith Kercher was killed, almost like they were reliving and salivating, hearing someone postulate on her crime, if it was her. Yes. And my friend finally, this is Shada, who does some episodes with me, said, come on, Amanda. And then the whole account was erased. So
why don't you tell us, Amanda? Why don't you tell us?
Right.
Yeah, so, she used to, years ago, she used to go on, and we all knew it was her, because just the timing of everything, like when she would post on her goofy blog, and then the stuff that she was saying, and it all sort of corresponded. I mean, there's no way to prove, but it was pretty much a done deal. And then when we started calling her out on it, it was like, oh, she'd do what you said, delete her account. And then the next thing you know, and it's the same, the same type of language, the same, she's not that clever, but she's very obsessed with what people say about her. And every time people stop talking about her, all of a sudden something comes out, she says something or does something or tries to, I don't know, she's always trying to get her name out there. That's how she is. She just wants attention. Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
Can you talk a little bit about Amanda Knox's behavior in the house and her relationship with Raph?
Oh, so it's interesting because her relationship with Raph is all just sort of this romantic, whimsical experience that happened. So she met him at that chocolate festival and immediately fell into bed with him. And from what I understand, it just seems like they smoked pot and possibly did other drugs together. Um, but her relationship with the roommates is it's a little bit more elusive because mostly we only talk about the relationship between Amanda and Meredith specifically. And we know that Meredith and her were on one side of the apartment and shared a bathroom, and Philomena and Laura were on the other side of the apartment and shared a bathroom. So it seems those two were a little bit more close. But it does seem that, with Raffaele, he seemed to be very mesmerized by Amanda. And this was his first girlfriend, apparently. He'd never really had any attention otherwise. He looked like Harry Potter. Amanda was obsessed with Harry Potter. Those are sort of the main things that I know.
And can you talk about her relationship with she also had this boyfriend, DJ.
Yeah, so that was before. And I think she was still keeping in contact with him, from what I understand, if I remember correctly. And there almost sort of seemed to be this agreement that they were going to, almost have a little bit of an open relationship. I don't know, did she ever really cut it off with him, so to speak?
All right. Here you are. I'm looking at this live. You really haven't heard this before? Her on Labyrinth talking about this?
What is it?
Her Labyrinth podcast. I'm like looking at you.
Oh, no.
There's a super chat. Maybe you missed it out on it. Hold on. I'm just trying to find the transcript so I don't have to play the entire thing again. Hold on one second. So I'm just trying to, oh, geez. Just trying to find it, guys. Excuse me, I just didn't.
Oh, no, you're fine. I did want to say, with, what was it? It was Laura, was the one with the piercings, and Amanda seemed to want to emulate her a little bit. There seemed to be a little bit of, like, I don't know, some kind of worshiping going on there. And with Meredith, there was a bit of a competition thing going on there. And Meredith was always annoyed by Amanda. And I can't remember who it was. Were they all annoyed with her playing the guitar and singing in one tune?
Yeah, she would strum the same tune on the same note on the guitar over and over and over and annoy everyone. And she also slept with a drug dealer on the train on her way to Italy with her sister there. Yeah. And that's where she picked up, it's believed that she picked up herpes, I think.
Herpes, yeah. Because we see the herpes on her mouth, at least, when she's going to trial and stuff. I don't know if as far as I know, she also contracted genital herpes, but I mean, she definitely had the simplex one.
Yeah, she was definitely breaking out in. I'm just trying to find this. Let me just. Yeah, but I really went to town on this whole thing.
Yeah, I want to hear it. I have
Hold on 1 second.
I have not listened to her. Like, she just annoys me so bad.
There's.
She's
like, I don't know if I can deal with myself.
She's always just like,
oh, okay, here it is. She's a guest of mine. Now I'm forgetting his name. who is this guy? Andrew Hamill is his name, who wrote a pretty good piece about Adnan Syed being guilty, but he just never called out the fraud that let Adnan Syed out. And so I went through his piece, and I was really disappointed because he did talk about Open Society Foundation backed DAs or Soros backed DAs or soft on crime DAs as we know them now. Hey, Kitty's 1993. Hi, Roberta and Tuesday, Amanda, Wendy, Karen, and the 3 a.m. the 3 amigos. Oh, nice, clever, kitties. Hold on, we're going to hear Amanda Knox ask Andrew Hamill about. So Andrew Hamill really didn't like me for calling him out about that. So he's like, well, there are real cases of wrongful. He was a former defense lawyer who did this kind of work, undoing convictions. One of getting people off of death row and undoing their convictions. And one of the guys he undid reoffended. And he's like, oh, that didn't bother me at all. I was like, really?
Oh.
I would think that would bother me. I got someone out and they reoffended, and maybe maybe someone wouldn't have been hurt. I can't remember if it was. I think it was another serious. None of these. It's a crime for a reason. But here's Amanda Knox talking to Andrew Hamill and mentioning my name.
No, I would definitely not associate myself with this so-called innocence fraud movement.
There is no movement. I wish there were a movement. I wish there were a movement. There is no movement. I love how she's saying like we're an army of people. There's just
we're going to be. That's what's going to happen. That's
maybe
right.
Martin Pribe just does Chicago cases. Do you know anyone in this innocence fraud movement?
I'm in it.
Yeah, you're in it.
I'm
You're
in
in retirement. What are we going to get you? There's like three people. Okay, people who talk about the subject seriously.
Yeah.
From a realistic standpoint.
Well, hey,
that's it. There is no movement. There's no money in it.
Thing.
There's no organization. It's just me. So I love that they're talking about it like they're not just talking about me. I would definitely not associate myself with that Roberta Glass. No, she's bad. She doesn't see your brilliant exoneration like I do, Amanda.
I mean, that's a compliment.
I mean, it would be such a happier story if I looked into these things. I'm always like hoping that every case I look into is a case of innocence.
It never is.
It would make it so much better if I found one. I think there's a couple that there's like two that I found that are wrongful convictions, but that are small. One was someone was set up, and the other I haven't fully looked into. But compared to this tsunami of innocence fraud, it's like saying I wouldn't say a couple investors with Madoff made money, so he wasn't doing fraud. I mean, it's outrageous how massive this is, and every year it gets bigger and bigger. This movement, it's so rich. Just the movement to end life without parole for juveniles is $1 billion movement. So you can think about that. I mean, this is at least a multi-million, if not, I think it's a multi-billion-dollar movement, but it's really hard to add up from all the little innocence projects, state by state by state, to the national. Start talking about this stuff. I never stop. That's the problem. Sometimes my boyfriend has to go, no, like I can't take any more of this. Even I can't take any more of this, but I don't want to skip by anyway. But she brings up my name and some to all the alliances.
I went on to Roberta Glass's podcast, and she kept peppering me. She asked me questions about your case, and I said, it's been conclusively resolved by Italy's highest court. You are innocent.
It's been conclusively resolved that you were there at the scene of the crime, that you washed Meredith Kercher's blood off your hands and feet. Andrew Hamill didn't like those hard facts so much, and he sounded off on Twitter. I didn't pepper him. I didn't pepper him at the time. I just said, oh, interesting. Then we fought it out on Twitter. You can go back to the Don Sayed episode. My memory is not of peppering him with questions about Amanda Knox.
What
My
on
question is,
earth?
my memory is fighting it over Twitter, until I finally had to block him because he was so pompous and he couldn't deal with reality that I don't think he knew a lot about it, just our press. And then when he's like, well, Italy's highest court let her go. Yeah, they let her go after illegally throwing out all the DNA evidence. Are you saying, Andrew Hamill, that all the DNA evidence that implicates Rudy Gude is correct, and all the DNA evidence that implicates Raf and Amanda, like the DNA of Raf in Meredith Kercher's blood on the bath mat, or his DNA on her bra clasp, or the double DNA knife, or all the mixed DNA, meaning mixed blood of Amanda and Meredith, was wrong and corrupted, but the DNA that implicated Gude is correct? That's insane.
Well, that's exactly what they're saying, because it was a biased, tunnel visioned investigation, and all the people that work in forensics in the lab in Rome, by the way, they were also biased against Amanda because she was American, you see. And
Right.
so they all decided that it would be best to just lock up an American instead of finding the real killer. And, because they didn't care if they killed again. We just need to prosecute this American. Yes, that makes perfect sense to these people.
Or this group of killers, because no court who's looked at this case has concluded that one person did it alone. So if Amanda didn't do it and Raf didn't do it, who else did it with Rudy Gude, who, by the way, says that he's 110% sure that Amanda and Raf were there?
Yeah.
So,
and that's the interesting thing, because both of them had experts, and I always screw up which one said which, but I know one of their experts said there was evidence she was attacked from the front, and the other expert said there was evidence she was attacked from the back, which just tells me that the prosecution's expert was correct, that she was attacked from both the front and the back, that there was evidence that shows both of that. So,
right. And Meredith was also a brown belt in karate, very strong, and there was no defensive wounds. And there were fingerprints, female-sized fingerprints on her body. Okay, hold on. Here we go. I'll just finish this up. Right. I kept peppering him. Yeah, I kept peppering him with facts. Gosh darn it, that Roberta Glass. She's always peppering me. Why does she pepper me? He felt peppered, guys, by my insistence on bringing up facts of her case, that she's a convicted liar and that she hasn't been exonerated at all by the highest court.
So is Raffaele Solicit, and there's just no doubt about that. The entire theory of the case was ludicrous. And so your case is certainly not innocence fraud, and there are other cases like Timojin Kinsu from Michigan, a clear case of wrongful conviction.
That's not a case I have looked into deeply. I've done a surface level view, and he gives me the creeps to my bone marrow. But it doesn't mean he's guilty. He could just be a creepy guy who was wrongfully convicted. But I think he may have taken a plane and faked his alibi. I don't know. That's how I think now. But I haven't.
I don't know that case, but if the Innocence Project is involved, I'm pretty sure they're guilty.
I'm not sure the Innocence Project. I know the prosecutor's podcast is always hammering on about his innocence, but I'm not. I haven't looked deep. I have to look at the transcripts, and I just haven't been motivated to do so. I just started to look into that case, and that guy, I saw an interview, read an interview with him, and same thing, made the Harry wrong. But haven't is innocent. But I original trial.
Also, am, I'm working on a piece about Jeri Sandusky.
Yeah, Jeri Sandusky. This guy, Andrew Hamill, thinks that Jeri Sandusky was wrongfully convicted.
Oh my God. What?
Don't even talk to me about that case, guys. I get the Jeri Sandusky bro supporters. I think they're just all a bunch of perverts. Frankly, this is me after a couple drinks. Shout out to Nadia. This is why I went late. But, forget it. I'm telling the real truth tonight. I have no time for Jeri Sandusky nonsense with that case. That case I have looked into deeply, and no thanks. No thank you.
A famous, notorious child molester who the evidence in that case is extremely questionable. I also certainly do not believe that Woody Allen is a child molester.
I used to believe that too, but then I looked into the case. Sorry.
Yeah.
I take the unpopular position. I think they're both disturbed people, Mia and Woody, but there you go. But I definitely think he did it.
Wow, what an amazing selection of group that Amanda Knox is in. She's in with Jeri Sandusky. Jeri Sandusky.
Uh-huh.
Have anybody heard of his interview? Where he's like, "Oh, yep. Do I like children? Do I like? Yeah, I like children a lot. That one. That guy.
Oh no!
Do you know the interview? Do you remember that interview?
No,
That was our
I
first
didn't watch
clue.
that.
His own adopted son, accused him. Oh, okay. I think this is basically, but she brings up, she asked him about innocence fraud, and basically I was on, and the only thing they have to talk about innocence fraud is me. I mean, I'm sure if he got tangled with Innocence Fraud Watch and their blog, he'd be talking about them, or Martin Pribe with Chicago cases, but he tangled with me, and they both want to talk about how terrible I am.
Well, you are a legend now. You are a legend. You are a movement.
There we go.
You are a legend.
There we go.
All right, everyone, please send your donations to the Innocence Fraud Project. To Roberta.
Yeah, I'd love to start the Innocence Project. You know who also talks about it is Sean from Actual Justice Warrior, but he talks about it from a position of race. He doesn't talk about too many white offenders, unfortunately. And
this has nothing to do with race. It has to do with how much attention they can get on a case. It's all about what sells, what can they put in front of the public, what's latching on. And then we've talked about AIU, how he's talked about the literati. That was another thing. Like, they both have the same first initial and last initial. I thought that was kind of interesting. But for whatever reason, the Innocence Fraud or the Innocence Project or whatever, they latch on to certain cases that have some kind of, I don't know, presence that they can get going. And if they can get a steamroll going, then that's what they're going to go with. That's the case they're going to hype up.
Right. And someone's very good looking, or has a name that's catchy, or they can attach it to a cause. And so when Black Lives Matter was very big, it seemed like they were going with every, a lot of Black defendants. If something else big, if they can connect it with a cause. So with Amanda Knox's anti-Americanism, with other cases, it's like Rodney Reed, it's fear of mixed couples. I mean, it makes me almost my stomach turn to say mixed couples, because that's their defense, is that Rodney Reed was in a relationship with his victim.
I know, it's just so ridiculous. It's so disgusting, isn't it? It's really disgusting, isn't it?
Absolutely. And they like people also who are on death row, because people will rush. The money is so good with these death row cases because the death penalty movement is so big. The ACLU also often collaborates with the Innocence Project. And so Stacey Stites, so he's basically saying that Rodney Reed was in a relationship with Stacey Stites. Julius Jones, I think it's just basic racism, though that never made any sense because the person they wanted to blame it on was also black. So that never made any sense. So I don't know. But they like to attach it to a cause. For Karen Reed, I'd say it's anti-police sentiment. So they like to attach these cases to a cause.
Yeah, whatever's going on in the culture at the time, and then and then it also depends on like what their family's doing, who's going to stand up for them, that sort of thing. And then they latch onto these things, and that's how they make their money. Send us money. We'll retest the DNA 200 times, even though it's not going to matter whether you find it or not.
Right. If they don't find it, they say, oh, look, and sometimes that works. There's a case, Johnny Lee Gates, a case where he had tied up his victim, and with these ties, they had passed these ties around the jury. They'd been so corrupted, but when they finally tested them decades later, there was none of his DNA on it. And they were like, look, see, let him go. And they harangued the prosecutor, and the prosecutor rolled over. She was outnumbered. They also have all these interns and resources. They have so much money that a lot of prosecutors will roll over, and judges. This is a movement done by lawyers, and it benefits lawyers in the civil suits that they. So what is the interesting thing that Amanda Knox said here, and I'll just read it. I won't share my screen, but that not only it's preventing her from her Australia trip, but it prevents her from suing Italy. This was her plan, guys, for wrongful imprisonment, because she was rightfully convicted, and the time that she did would be the time that she would have done for slander conviction. And it opens up, them up to being sued for damages. So I wondered why they didn't roll over. They had made the laws more favorable and thrown out a lot of the evidence, but the evidence, I feel, of her slander is so strong. Even when they let her go for the murder of Meredith Kercher, the evidence was so strong that they basically gave a wink and a wink and a nod to the people that knew about the case. Like, look, she was there at the scene of the crime. We're not going to say she's innocent. We're letting her go, guys. It's charity, because Hillary Clinton was threatening to go over there. And Donald Trump also was a big supporter of Amanda Knox, gave her money.
I know. I did not.
Amanda Knox
did not understand that at all. I did not understand that.
He gets into some of these innocence. And he just needs to not do that. And that was another thing that, like, I was not a Kamala fan by any means, but like they really tried to slander her on what was that Kevin Cooper case, saying she withheld evidence. Like, no, the guy was guilty. You guys are wrong. Like, they just slander her twice with her DNA record. They tried to say that Kevin Cooper, the governor, who's the governor of California? I'm forgetting his name. Gavin Newsom. I know.
Gavin Newsom. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see his Gavin with the good hair. Gavin with the good hair. Basically, there was so much outrage, including the New York Times reporter. Help me with his name.
Don't ask me.
It's just escaping me for a moment, but it will come back to me in a minute. Was writing these love letter pieces about Kevin Cooper, who was a man who broke out of prison and did the Chino Hills massacre, killed a whole family except for the son that lived and the son's friend who was sleeping over. Yeah. Then stole the family car. Horrible case. And so Gavin Newsom, there's so much. They also talked about it on the New York Times podcast, The Daily, one of the biggest podcasts in the world, all about Kevin Cooper's wrongful conviction and being on death row in California, which is similar to like trying to end it all on the F train under construction, on the tracks of the F train under construction in New York. No train coming. So, you got enough time. California's. Jane Cressman says, another great stream, Roberta. And Roberta. I think you mean Tuesday. Keep the pepper flowing. Smash the like button, y'all. Thanks, Jayne. Nice to see everybody. Hey, Tammie. Hey, Talking with Tara. Hey, Marina. So, yeah, so they did so many of these things that Gavin Newsom had a panel look into the conviction of Kevin Cooper, and in liberal California with all the cards, basically when they have these wrongful conviction integrity units, they're basically like get out of jail free cards. If they find anything, even absence of DNA, absence of evidence, they'll let you go. But with Kevin Cooper, they wrote a report, and Gavin Newsom had to say that guy's guilty beyond any doubt.
Exactly.
And close the case with that. And then there's another case that I did on my channel. It's an episode called No, Kamala Harris did not wrongfully convict.
Right.
This guy, and that they use that. So, I mean,
I remember that episode.
That bothered me a lot. It bothers me a lot on either side of the fence when they try to obscure the real record of someone.
Oh yeah. And unfortunately, no party's immune to it when it comes to politics, because both sides get everything wrong. It's like, just stay out of these, these cases, these individual cases like this, because you have to look at everything. You can't just know stuff from the media that's reported. And we see this here with this case in particular. The US media talks about Amanda as if she was the most unluckiest person in the world, who just so happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and Italy's horrible, and they present it like it's a third world country, and Amanda's did everything right. It's that she was persecuted, and if you go over and look at the media in Italy, it's the other story, right? It's all the facts and information that do not get reported in the media over here. And it's just a matter of actually.
Alan. I was just going to play your bro, Alan Dershowitz. The name of the New York Times reporter is Nicholas Kristof, by the way. Just escaped my mind for a minute.
Yes.
He supported Kevin Cooper.
Like him. Yeah.
Well, you're out. Once you participate in an innocence fraud, you're out. You're off the. What is it? What did Bill Hicks used to say? You're off the artistic roll call. You're off my roll call. Here's Alan Dershowitz talking about Amanda Knox's
Joining us now
conviction.
to talk about what's next in the case is Alan Dershowitz. He's a professor at the Harvard University Law School, author of Taking the Stand. So much confusion here about what this case would mean if it was in America, for example. Let's first of all clarify this issue about double jeopardy. She can't be extradited because under US law, double jeopardy doesn't exist.
Well, there would be no double jeopardy under American law if an intermediate court of appeals reversed the conviction, because that's not a final judgment. That reversal was then reversed by a higher court. So there wouldn't be double jeopardy under American law. There is no double jeopardy under Italian law. There are thousands of American people in jail today on the basis of far less evidence than was presented against Amanda Knox. The evidence against her is very, very considerable. You wouldn't know that by listening to the American media that has been saying repeatedly that there's no evidence against her. She falsely accused somebody of committing the crime. She created a false alibi. She first admitted she was at the scene of the crime. They found forensically that multiple people had to commit the murder. The person who was convicted of the murder said she did it. The evidence is very, very considerable. Now, that may not be enough to persuade everybody or even to go beyond a reasonable doubt. But for people who say there's no evidence, they're just not telling the truth. There's considerable evidence, and she would probably be extradited under the law if she were if the conviction were affirmed. Now, this has become a very political case in the United States. Politicians and the media are all saying that she was innocent and that she's been railroaded by a court system that sounds like an Iranian court system. But that's just not true. And so if the case is decided under the law, she will be extradited. If it's decided by politics, perhaps not.
And a lot of people in it.
And it was decided by politics, in my opinion, unfortunately. But I mean, if you want to see also, another thing we could look at is the talking dolls. I know I always show this, but it's such a good example of Amanda Knox's shifting stories. Do you want to see it again? Are you up for it?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not gonna.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I've watched it. Yeah, I've watched it many times. It never gets old.
Right. It's such an easy way to show her shifting stories. And hold on, let me see if I can pull it in a different way, because that way I can stop it and start it. And it sometimes, I think it can confuse people who aren't familiar with the case a little bit.
Yeah.
Instead of just playing it all the way through. Let me pull up the video. I had a totally different show planned for tonight. I have all these other things up that are kind of boring compared to this, compared to having you on the show Tuesday.
Oh.
I didn't expect it. Such a nice treat. Here it is. Let's see if we can open this up.
These are my Amanda Knox talking dolls. There are 8 different Amanda dolls in total, one for each of her stories. I didn't make them myself. They're the work of a terrific female artist with whom I swapped Mad Magazine #2 a couple of years back. The first doll is called Crime Scene Amanda.
This morning, I went to the house and I found the front door open and blood in my bathroom. I took a shower. We've had burglars. Meredith always locks her door.
Okay, so she went in, she said, this is one of her first stories. She found this door wide open. She thought maybe someone just went out to get the trash. Okay. But then she goes into the bathroom and sees blood, and she thinks someone may have had their period. And she wants to get vulnerable and naked and strip off and take a shower with maybe Freddy Krueger in the house with blood on the bath mat. It makes 0 sense. So, just a little.
There's a problem there too, because she had said, and I've pointed this out before too, when she was relaying her story to the police, she had said she'd seen blood on the sink, on the tap, and then she took a shower, and then she saw the blood on the bath mat. And when you look at the bathroom, the little footage that the police took, they immediately zoom in on that blood on the mat. And that's what's disturbing, because it's so obvious. How did you not see that? How is that not the first blood that you saw in that bathroom? It's a small bathroom.
Big Lady says, Amanda Knox is totally innocent. It was an owl that committed the murder. Amanda Knox was boating that day. Boating that day.
Yeah. So we got a couple things going on. we got this little Scott Peterson and the other Peterson.
Yeah, we got a dual Peterson reference there.
Peterson.
Brilliantly done.
What's that staircase guy? What's his name? Peterson.
Or you could blame Turtles too if you're the West Memphis 3.
Yeah.
Wild Turtles.
Than just going for a shower. Break it down. Do you really have to? Oh my God.
So Amanda Knox said that Meredith always locks her door. When the police found Meredith behind a locked door, they found her cell phones thrown into someone's garden. So that's how the cell phones were found first. And Amanda Knox said, oh, Meredith always locks her door. The other roommate said, oh no, Meredith never locks her door. They were like, what? Meredith, she's like, do you really have to break it down? Amanda Knox wanted to delay the discovery of Meredith Kercher's body as long as possible, which is very much in line with locking the door. And Meredith had a long, agonizing death. She basically, drowned in her own, and you can imagine, and she was taking away her any lifeline for help. And that is what bothers me so much about, it's not just, it's agonizing, scary death that she put Meredith through. And she seems to love to relive it, love to talk about it, and has said multiple times in interviews recently that she is the victim, that she is the victim. And what she really means is she's the real victim. And she hates to say Meredith's name.
It could have been her.
In my opinion. That's my opinion. I'm sorry.
It could have been her.
Yes, it could have been her.
It could have been her.
Right.
God.
But it wasn't her because she was the one who participated in it.
Right, exactly.
Wait, let me go back a little bit.
Okay.
Do you really have to? Oh my God. They're screaming. I haven't seen.
What I really like about these dolls is they say Amanda's own words. The sources for those words you just heard were Romanelli and Mellis. The next doll is Police Station Amanda.
I know.
So Romanelli and Mellis, that's Philomena Romanelli, and Mellis is her mother.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so.
Everything. I was the first to find her. What do you want to know? What do you think? She to death.
It was Purton, Hayward, and Rodenhurst who heard those words come out of her mouth. The next doll is Email Amanda. Now this is where her story starts to genuinely change. Whereas at the cottage, she told everyone...
So again, for those that missed it or coming in late, Amanda Knox at the police station, Meredith's friend said, I hope she didn't suffer too much. And Meredith happened to know that she suffered a lot and happened to know the way that, Amanda happened to know the way that Meredith died. And that Meredith did suffer, said, what do you think? She effing bled to death. It's the kind of compassion if you've studied this case, you get to expect from Amanda Knox.
Cottage, she told everyone she wasn't worried in the slightest by Meredith's door being locked and that it was a normal thing. In this email,
I knocked louder and louder until I was really banging on her door and shouting her name. No response. Panicking, I ran out onto our terrace to see if maybe I could see over the ledge into her room from the window, but I couldn't see in.
the next doll is Kitchen Amanda. Fakara and Mignini are the sources here.
I met Patrick at the basketball court, and I went home with him. Patrick had sex with Meredith. I remember, confusedly, that he's the one who killed her. Think I stayed in the kitchen. I heard Meredith's screams. I was frightened, and put my hands over my ears.
The following day, Amanda personally requested a piece of paper and a pen and voluntarily wrote a memo. Here are the words of Memo Amanda.
So this memo was the gift she wrote. She said, this is my gift to you. She wrote this down. So not only did she not retract her false accusation of Patrick Lumumba, but she doubled down on it. And I know that her supporters will pick and choose parts from it and say, but look, see, she said here she wasn't so sure. It seemed like a dream, but you'll hear it. But here's this is Patrick Lumumba. And he had the greatest quote. He said, she'll have to live with this forever. Ruling forever. And I hope it's forever.
I know that Raffaele has placed evidence against me, saying that I was not with him on the night of Meredith's murder. I know the police are confused as to why it took me so long to call. I stand by my statements that I made last night about events that could have taken place in my home with Patrick. But I want to make very clear that these events seem more unreal to me than what I said before. I don't remember for sure if I was at my house that night.
Obviously, the source.
So here she is saying, I'm more sure, but I'm less sure. I mean, just playing cat and mouse with the detectives. And I'm really sure it was Patrick, but I'm unsure. So having it both ways. Yes, the blood sample of Meredith was too small to retest, but it did hit on many, many markers. And when they retested it, Amanda's DNA was again found on the hitch of the knife.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's not the only DNA. People like to talk about the double DNA knife, but what people don't like to talk about is the mixed DNA that lit up under luminol very intensely, meaning, i.e., blood. Amanda Knox's supporters like to call it root vegetables on her feet. She was just rubbing carrots on her feet. But that would not have lit up so intensely. Meredith and Amanda in the room of the stage break-in. There was no reason for Amanda to be in that room, in Philomena's room, her roommate Philomena's room, and the bathroom in multiple places. This is like, and in the hallway.
Well, back in the day, they used to say it was bleach. And I said, well, how does bleach produce DNA?
Good. Doesn't bleach kill DNA?
Exactly. Don't you remember who's the FBI guy? Steve and his wife.
Steve Moore and his wife now. They're jumping on the Karen Reed bandwagon now. I hear Michelle Moore and Steve Moore.
She is a nightmare. She insisted back in the day on Twitter. She insisted that it was it. He even has a presentation here on YouTube that was done a while back, and he talks about how it was bleach because bleach also lights up under luminol. And I'm thinking, okay, but bleach what is bleach doing there, first of all? And how do you get the genetic material of Amanda and Meredith if it's bleach?
He did that lying tour with, I'm forgetting every name tonight. Help me.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've,
the Italian guy who was ex-FBI. Oh, it's like Italian name. They did like a lying tour all over town, but would never debate it with anybody who knew anything about the case.
In that case is Amanda's own handwriting. And actually that's the source for the next doll, which is called Journal Amanda, where she appears to change her mind again about who the murderer might be.
Maybe Raffaele went to Meredith's house and killed her.
Okay. At last we get...
So also interesting about journals, Raffaele Solicito, I think that's the correct way. I always say Solecito, so I should just basically give it up. As long as I get Meredith Kercher's name right, I'm...
Yeah. I say Solecito, yeah.
I feel like I'm okay. He wrote in his journal that when they found the knife, he wrote in his journal that he remembers being over at Meredith being over at his house, and he was cooking and he pricked her with a knife, and she said, he said, "I'm so sorry," and she said, "It's not a problem," meaning Meredith. This was a completely invented scene. Meredith Kercher was never over at his house, so he was already tailoring his story to fit evidence that he thought he was be found on that knife. Strangely, it was Amanda's knife.
Yeah,
Amanda's DNA found and not his. But he did. But I think both of them handled it. It was his knife, and both of them handled it.
Well, did she have something else written in her diary where she said he served her fish and there was blood on him?
Yes, and then
there's blood from the fish, which is nothing like human blood.
She saw blood on the hands, but she thought it was from the fish, and that he cleaned her ears out. So I think, you know how blood gets in your ears,
Yeah.
She also had, Tuesday has a very interesting theory compelling theory that Meredith Kercher ripped out Amanda Knox's earring. And that's what they were looking for under the bed, Amanda Knox's earring. Because if you look at her ear, it's very red and angry. She also had a scratch or a hickey, depending on who's looking at it, on her neck the next day. But she does this, she talks about, that's another very weird thing.
It's to courtroom, Amanda. Some people may remember this.
When I got out of the shower, I saw that I had forgotten my towel, so I wanted to use the bath mat to get to my room. And that's when I saw the bloody stain that was on the bath mat. I used the mat to kind of hop over to my room and into my room. I took my towel and I used the mat to get back to the bathroom.
Those words are in the court.
So anything that they thought was Rudy Goudet's DNA was preserved in the room, and anything that that Raph and Amanda believed had their DNA on it was scrubbed clean, and the kitchen was scrubbed clean. There was no, my understanding, there was no DNA of them anywhere in the house except for the mixed blood,
Roberta,
at least in the kitchen, right?
There's so much here. There's so much here. First of all, let's look at the screen right now. All you need is love. Do you remember the shirt she wore to court? She literally wore this to court. It's not a joke. There's pictures of it. She literally wore that to court. I don't know in what world this person lives in that you would wear that to a court of law. I don't know how her attorneys allowed her to wear something like that to court.
But it was very much in line with the way she dressed through the entire trial, which is, I'm not the type of person who would do this. Which, hey, does anyone remember Devin Tracy's argument? Young, pretty women never kill. That was his argument why she's innocent. So people fall for this nonsense all the time and say, I'm not the criminal type. Well, who is the criminal type? If you've learned anything from following true crime, people can surprise you.
Anybody is capable. Anybody and everybody. And this whole thing about hopping on a mat. So this is where my mind goes insane. You come home, your door's open, you say, oh, it might have been someone to take out the trash, even though you have a visible view of where the you would have seen somebody. Okay. I'm not buying that whole story anyway, by the way. She goes inside the apartment, doesn't check all the rooms, doesn't do anything like that. No, she just undresses in her bathroom, doesn't get a towel or anything. But let's just say, like, I've taken a shower and forgot a towel before. I've done it myself. Although my bathroom's off my bedroom. But let's just say that happens, right? Do you hop on a mat to get to your room? A bloody mat? At this point, she's acknowledged that there's blood on this mat. She's trying to come up with a way because at this point, they had found evidence that her genetic material was found in the hallway mixed with Meredith. Okay? So now she's trying to find a way to do this. So she comes up with the story about hopping on a mat. I have never in my life hopped on a mat. I just walk and go get my towel. And
I call it her magic carpet ride.
Yeah, if some water, gets down on the floor, oh well, so sad. I can wipe it up with another towel,
I can just sashay, like do the twist on my towel on the floor all the way. It was also, I read on truejustice.org, which is a great source for information about the Meredith Kercher case.
The most comprehensive outline of this case, yes.
I wish they would fix some of these broken links on there. But they were saying it was also, not only was it a reason for the mixed DNA that I say, or that we both agree, but what they say gives a reason why there was a footprint and no other footprints leading to Meredith's room? Why was this one bloody footprint on the mat and no footprints in the hallway?
Yeah, exactly. But this whole story is just so bizarre. Like I said, I've never heard of anyone ever scooting on a bath mat to get to their bedroom. And why would you? That means she handled the mat. She had to have picked it up and put it right back, right?
Right.
It's just,
All right, we're almost through this, and then I think I'm going to call it a night. There's also some. Actually, I want to go over one more quick thing before I go, because there's an interesting thing about the AP writer who's doing a lot of this apologist writing for Amanda Knox. What a great piece by Chrissy G, I believe, on truejustice.org.
Record. The judge was Dr. Giancarlo Massey. Finally, prison Amanda. The source for these words was a hidden microphone.
What is all the evidence against Amanda? How much time do you have, Roscoe? Do you want Raph too, or just Amanda? Well, there's like I said, the mixed DNA of Amanda in the hallway. I feel like I'm going to miss some of it. Bathroom and the room of the stage break-in mixed with Meredith Kercher's DNA that lit up under luminol, i.e. mixed blood. There's the DNA.
Yeah, it was determined that it was blood,
right.
Her blood and Meredith's blood.
Right. But people get very upset when you say mixed blood, but it is mixed blood. Okay. Yeah. There's also Raph's DNA was found on the bra clasp of Meredith Kercher. Also, Raph's footprint was found. That's the footprint found in blood was determined to be Raffaele Sollecito's foot. In Meredith Kercher's blood on the bath mat. What else am I missing?
Are we just talking about DNA, or are we talking
just
about
DNA? Just DNA. I think that's all the DNA, but there might be other places I've missed. Those are the places that come to mind: the hallway, the bathroom that Meredith and Amanda shared, and the room of the stage break-in, which was roommate Philomena's room.
Right.
Am I missing anything?
No, it was Philomena's room, the hallway, and the bathroom.
Okay.
And the only other places where Amanda and Raffaele's DNA were found were on cigarette butts that were found in the living room. So his
I thought
DNA
that was the kitchen. I thought it was the kitchen. The cigarette butts in the kitchen.
It could have been the kitchen. Wherever the ashtray was.
My memory is the kitchen.
Yeah.
I was a smoker at the time. It stood out. Thank God I quit.
I can't say anything but the truth, because I know I was there. I mean, I can't lie.
I know I was there. I can't lie. Also, Amanda also said in court under oath that the Italian justice system had been good to her. Boy, she's telling a different story now. Here's a story. Blood traces were found all around Miss Kercher's bedroom, not in one specific area. Oh, there was blood on the wall, the closet, under the desk, under the bed, by and under the bed. So that's also what she could have been trying to clean up with the lamp. On the walls above the bed, on the mattress cover, on the floor. I mean, it was just a very bloody scene. And Rudy Gude had said to his friend, not knowing he was being taped, that how could they clean up, especially the hallway was exceedingly... Meredith Kercher's body was moved. Also, there's here's the shoe print found in Meredith Kercher's blood on the in size 7 shoe. I don't know. That's not exactly DNA, but I would say that Amanda Knox could have been tried just on her shifting stories alone to a court.
The other circumstantial evidence is overwhelming. I mean, it's overwhelming. They shut off their phones that night.
Right. They shut off their phones and turned them on at the same time the next morning. Very early in the morning when they said they were asleep, they were playing very aggro music, almost like music you would clean to throughout the night and early morning. Am I remembering right? In the early morning, they were playing that music.
I think they said, what was the story that the cat turned on the phone or the computer?
Yeah, turned on the computer.
Yeah.
Forensically corrupted. Basically, all the DNA that doesn't implicate Rudy Goudet is wrong and corrupted. That's what you.
And their computers were destroyed at some point too. Did they have a couple computers that were destroyed? Like they couldn't get any information off of them.
Huh. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, I think it was Raphael's computer or something, but they went and tried to do that. And then his place had been cleaned at some point because it smelled of bleach. And they knew the knife had been cleaned. It just so happened that there was, the 2 spots on it, but they knew that they had cleaned the knife. But they brought that knife there. They brought the knife with them, so we know it was intentional.
Here we go. Just before I go, I just want to call out this Amanda Knox murderer groupie, Colleen Barry. This is a post by Chrissy G on a great resource, truejustice.org. U.S. financially beleaguered Associated Press again shows anti-Italy, pro-mafia bias. There was also a mafia guy who came forward and said, my brother did it, and it was supposed to be some kind of robbery, but they got the wrong house. And it turned out that he may have been paid by Raffaele Sollecito's family to lie, to fund, you can't make this stuff up, his sex change operation. Can't make that little detail up. Go through my Amanda Knox. This will be on my whole playlist. I did tons and tons of episodes about Amanda Knox, and I go through her statements and her emails, her recorded calls from her recorded jail conversations. AP, okay. Is the Associated Press on the take? Hard to account otherwise for its perpetual strong bias on Meredith's case. We have a full report in the works. Colleen Barry, the ardent Amanda Knox fangirl reporter who supplies the AP releases on Knox, has been filing heavily pro-Knox reports since 2013. That was long after the trial and the Massai sentencing report, the link to it, which she clearly has never read. She has never reported on the mafia angle, though even the cautious Italian press has often openly reported on it. There's ties between Sollecito's family and the mafia. She has never even hinted at how the Hellman Appeal Court and the Marcesca Bruno Appeal Court and the Calumnia, that's the slander court, were bent. She ignored the 500 or false claims in Knox's book. She reported none of the smoking guns on this page. And now she's failing Americans again. So just calling out Colleen Barry, innocence fraudster, journalist of the week. And I will put Chrissy G's post in. I was rushing because I was coming back.
I do wonder why they still have never read the reports, or why, or are they getting paid? I don't know.
I don't know either. It's hard to know. Amanda Knox has PR agents and managers. I mean, she's just like, I did a whole episode on that a while ago. I haven't updated it. I don't know if she's still being represented by the same people. She has another book coming out on a smaller label. So she never stops profiting off her crime. Thanks, Tammie. Roberta and Tuesday, great to hear you both live. Cheers. Cheers to you too. And
cheers.
Gizmo. Tammie has the most amazing cat. I know I keep saying that, Tammie. I'm a little obsessed with Gizmo, Tammie, if you don't mind. Anyway, I'm going to go out with my Amanda Knox song, Murder Pays and Pays and Pays. Tuesday, thank you so much. This was a real treat.
Thank you. Thank you. It was great talking to you again.
Stay right there.
Thank you. Okay.
Then I want you to forget. She plunges a knife into Meredith's neck. The double DNA knife we won't forget. Spun cartwheels and then splits at the police station. Couldn't hide your elation. Daddy got you a PR team before he hired a lawyer. When your alibi fell apart, you ignored your employer. Let him rot in jail until he got out with an alibi. Ruined his life with your big fat lie. Murder made her rich. She's a psycho, a slut and a selfish bitch. She stole Meredith's life with the plunge of a blade. Never stops profiting off her crime. Murder pays and pays and pays. The city of Perugia will chase you out of town with pitchforks and torches. Like the monster you are. Get out crosses and garlic and watch how your skin scorches. We will never forget how you staged a burglary. Covered your ears to block out Meredith's screams. Mixed blood of you and Meredith all over the crime scene. Keep saying Rudy did it alone, but we are wise to your scheme. Amanda Knox is a convicted liar. You can't produce your own Hulu flick. Innocence Farm documentary. Remember Earl's oldest trick. The Court of Cassation said you were there at the scene of the crime. Wash Meredith blood off your hands and Daddy got you a PR team before he hired a lawyer. When your alibi fell apart, you blamed your employer. Let him rot in jail until he got out with an alibi. Murder made her rich. She's a psycho, a slob and a selfish bitch. She stole Meredith's life with a plunge of a blade. Never stops profiting off the crime. Murder pays and pays and pays. And pays. The city of Perugia will chase you out of town with pitchforks and torches. Like the monster you are, get out crosses and garlic and watch how your skin scorches. We will never forget how you staged a burglary. Covered your ears to block out Meredith's scream. Mixed blood of you and Meredith all over the crime scene. Keep saying Rudy did it alone, but we are wise to your scheme. Amanda Knox is a convicted liar. You can't produce your own Hulu flick. Innocence Farm documentary. Remember Earl's oldest trick. The Court of Cassation said you were there at the scene of the crime. Wash Meredith's blood off your hands and Daddy got you a PR team before he hired a lawyer. When your alibi fell apart, you blamed your employer. Let him rot in jail until he got out with an alibi. Murder made her rich. She's a psycho, a slob and a selfish bitch. She stole Meredith's life with a plunge of a blade. Never stops profiting off her crime. Murder pays and pays and pays. And pays and pays and pays. And pays and pays. And pays and pays and pays. And pays and pays. And pays and pays and pays.